think we're ready. Welcome back, everybody, to another evening of live development, Godot, using C#. And tonight we're digging through, going to show off some of the stuff we have built throughout the week, and then kind of working into building a new weapon and a new monster type. But first, I wanted to do a change here that in the code about how I get resource paths for pickups. I'm just going to do that real quick here. Right now I've got this big thing in the pickup itself that switches through and determines what path to load and loads it right there, but I want to move that into my game data loader, which tends to load, basically it's a place where I go to load specific string path resources and grab strings back. I just get the static string of the thing and then see if it exists on the individual asset and use that as a way to load it. So I'm going to go ahead and this needs to be a prop name from here. I already copied most of it over, so we're just going to go do that. And then all of these are going to be converted just to returns. So this guy, let me go back and get that sorting board string again. Okay, so what I want to do is just take all of these guys and we're going to convert it into a very small function on the one object as opposed to as big as it is right now, and make things easier to read and keep things all in one place, because we're getting to a point now where the project is large enough to where organization is becoming a pretty big factor of making things easy to read and understand, because it's getting really complicated. Let's see, especially when it comes to the networking stuff too. That just did it for me. This one needs to be the ice wand, which is the new weapon we're going to be working on tonight. And most of that has already been, or at least the art parts of it has already been done ahead of time, as well as the art I did for a new monster type, which is the wraith. We'll go ahead and be trying to import those tonight. Spend a good amount of time this evening, I think, getting those guys set up, see how far we can get. Just want to be able to copy this formatting on all of these. Just do this, actually. This should allow me to return these. We'll get rid of all those breaks because they'll never get called. We'll do cleanup later. And this will just make things nice and easy to read on the prop side. All of my pickups for like the weapons and utilities. I think that's the only two things we have right now that you can actually pick up. Those all come from inherited behavior of this item pickup script here. And so the more I can condense it, the better. And just finding little things like that around the code where I can kind of make sure things are all coming from one location and not having to dig through the code too much to figure out where things belong and how to get the values I want. And this is old. We used to have a frame system for those dash types when I was testing out different dash types a long time ago. Okay, so this has to return something at the end. So we're gonna have it return a blank string at the end if it gets through all of these without anything. All right, so this is all static. So it's going to return a static string over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do game data loader, get item pickup resource, and we pass in the prop, which is the owner of this thing. Prop, and then I want prop data. Okay, so now we're just going to do a check here to make sure that this thing, this resource exists. It's a very different way of doing things in Godot 4, but for this it'll be fine. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, they got rid of the resource loader entirely. This will check to see if the resource exists at that string, and we're going to do an early out if it doesn't exist before we try to load something. And I'll just go ahead and do a print out here, like I do in most places where errors can happen. And then if it's all fine, we're going to go ahead and do this texture load. Grab one of these guys. All it's going to do is set the texture based on the resource string that we have loaded. And all of this comes from an Atlas texture. I haven't seen too many tutorials on how to use Atlas textures in Godot, but that'll save us a whole bunch of room on this end. All right. Let's see. We got everything working again. I'm going to go ahead and try and show off what we got. You can see, started with the new weapon here is the ice wand. I'll go ahead and see if we build. So we got some issues in the game data loader. Oh, I didn't save it. Every time. This thing. Must not like the brackets or the yeah. Although it's not airing out of the other ones, so I wonder what's going on there. I'll just clean them up. Hopefully that's everything. Okay, get resource path by weapon name. Oh, because I turned this into a static because I was getting a string from this guy from a previous update. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show off what we've got here with the new stuff in the survival map. Oh no, wait, the survival map's not going to be great for this because I don't have... Oh man, okay, I definitely screwed something up because all these things don't exist. Alright, so the item resource doesn't exist for all of those. Let's see what I did. Assets, images, props. See what I... Oh, because hold on, we got this. Did I not do the switch properly, or didn't do the if statement correctly, did I? Yeah. I remembered. Should have changed that. Okay, so I'm going to go show off the other level, assuming this debug level goes in. Alright, so here is the new ability I built, and I showed it off a little bit earlier today in one of the other files I uploaded. But it's the Holy Bolt, and so it's actually a couple of new tech ideas I built for projectiles that we're going to be using for monsters and more hero abilities. But you can see I built a new functionality for the weapon arm system, so we can actually play and pause and emit particles from these particle emitters as part of the animation. And now when this projectile gets fired, we've got a new projectile type. It's the Holy Bolt, and it will shoot across the level. And when it travels a certain amount of distance, it will lay down one of these. It actually spawns a projectile there called the Holy Blast, which is very similar to how I set up the fireball events that occur. And you'll see that this thing, it'll hit enemies and pass through them as you'd expect. But it will, and its damage is moderate when it does that. But when it manages to get a guy right at the location it needs to, it will Holy Blast them and then do extra damage, and does more push damage as well. So it's a little harder. I mean, the whole idea was to make something that's a little more finessable, a little more difficult. We can always tune the distance required. I've also built it so that it can fire any number of these. So if we wanted to have these things just blast down the line, we could build one that does that. Let's just show you real quickly how we can do that. Let's go to the projectile data table. Okay, so in the Holy Bolt, I've made a new type. Let me see if I can make it bigger here. A new type of projectile parameters that lets you create a dictionary, and the dictionary is called travel distance spawn projectile. So as long as it travels, it will actually get at that distance, it will spawn this array of projectile names, this list of projectile names. So say we wanted to spawn a bunch of projectiles at 80 feet or 80 units, then we could put more guys in this list. You know, the trouble there is, like, we don't have a way to offset them right now, but just a real quick thing we could do though, really easily, is add a bunch more locations these things will spawn at. And so let's do one at 30, do one at 110. So now it's going to spawn at those distances, and only those distances. So here we go. We got this guy. Should hit you at 3 locations. Boom, boom, boom. Yep. And so with that, we can force it to not spawn a bunch if it hits a wall and the projectile dies early. There's one I was thinking about doing on a timer as well that can have it do it at different time intervals. But distance right now is probably I don't know. Time is actually probably safer to do, but I like distance mostly because it's something that doesn't rely on time, and the networking stuff can be a little weirder with that if we end up getting people pretty far off the update tick. But there's some problems with the distance as well. Let's see. And now let's see if I can spawn a guy who's... Oh yeah, there's another change I made. I made the skeletons now, the ones that have the shield and the axe now are now just called armored skeletons. I really didn't like the model that I built for the spearmen, so I replaced those guys with the standard skeletons, and now these guys, since they have, you know, some special defensive abilities, I gave them a helmet. And I'll be adding more abilities to these guys, I believe, in the future. Cool. And so, first thing we're working on is this ice wand. I just copied a lot of the data over from the fire staff, so it has the same set of animations as the fire staff, and it has the same abilities right now. And you can see they work fine, but we're not going to use those. We're going to build our own. So that's what we'll be doing now. And as a quick thing we could do is we could start by going into... Let's get rid of this. Let's go actually add our fire wand model and get some animations built so we can ensure that he doesn't do the rotations that the fire staff does. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw the ice wand on here. Okay. And let's take a look at our animation. Let's remove this guy. And this is the standard animation we kind of use for all of the the basic holding of utilities. And so we're going to probably clone this guy and use that as our standard idle frame. I think we use that as... Should we just use that idle, or should we make a... We should make a new one. Just in case we ever want to change this. We'll call it Ice Wand Idle. Right. And then let's go ahead and look at our Ice Wand stats. Okay. So you can see I've just copied over everything that came from the Fire Staff. And we want to start making unique skills on this thing and unique ability, or unique things we can unique animations. So I think what we're gonna do just right off the bat is get two abilities we're pretty confident in that we have already built. I'm gonna build a new one to get the Ice Bolt working, which is the thing that's coming off the traps right now. And then I'll consider using the Ray of Frost as the special, but I think we're gonna build something else as a special. I really want to do like a Blizzard ability that lets you channel in an area and do lots of AoE. So we'll do that. Well, so we'll start with this with these animations here. So we've got this Ice Wand idle, and we're gonna save this guy out. Let's go find out where my top layer is. Save it out here, and then we're gonna want a shoot animation. Actually, we'll need an attack held animation. So we'll call this attack 1 held right. Okay, and this will be the animation that the character will do when he is prepping his ice bolt before he fires it. So it's gonna need to have a looping. And let's do this guy. This one's looping as well. Save, and then we'll go... Let's go add some frames with this guy, because I don't know what necessarily it's going to look like when I'm prepping a spell, because we definitely want something that looks like he is charging it up, and I think we're going to want to break into the particle system for it. But I don't know how much actual movement the wand itself should have while he's prepping a spell. Probably not that much. And in fact, let's just save this guy out right off the bat and see what it looks like without that weird rotation. And we'll go over here and actually let's go find the animations here. We'll copy the paths and load them up into our weapon. Oh, that's the wrong one. We want to do this one first. And then we want to grab this guy. Okay. And then let's go to our Ice Wand weapon, because we've got this held right, and I want this idle right. I want to turn off emitting, because that's the new variable that we've added, which allows the weapon data to get passed to the weapon itself and play particle effects. It's the same way I do the swinging animations for all my characters as well. They will only play the swinging streak of their that trail that comes off when that is triggered on this component of the model. Okay, and we've got a sound on here for the smelter burning for when he's got the attack held down. Now, I don't necessarily want to mess with that right now. But let's take a look at what it'll do when I add some particle effects to this thing. So let's go to the Ice Wand model. Where's its muzzle at? Its muzzle is at the end. Let's move it in a little bit. A lot of the problems that we get by having weapons that are further and further out that shoot projectiles, the further out the muzzle goes, the more chance that the character can poke it through or actually accidentally have it hit a wall when it spawns a projectile. So we got to keep them fairly close. Let's go ahead and add particle. And I'm just going to steal the particles I've already built for the Holy Bolt weapon. So that one's called the Holy Bolt Scroll, which all it is this particle effect. We're just going to copy its material. You can't just copy it or it will copy the scene, so you've got to be careful. Okay. And I think this didn't copy over the. Let's find it again. Didn't copy over this stuff. So lifetime 0.4 and amount 18. And let's go ahead and pump this up to 18. And so there's in the material itself, there's going to be some color variant. I want to grab the color. We'll just make it a frostier color. Call it a day. Good enough. I think it probably should go a little further out though. Its position at least. Let's push it. It's on the x-axis. Okay. So I've got it so where it will just automatically grab it from the weapon model, and it'll know what node to grab off this thing. So hopefully this should just work right out of the box. So not attacking and attacking. Oh. So it's still playing an animation, but let me turn that off. There's on the skill itself, the skill that it's trying to use right now is this fire staff attack hold. And if we look at that data table, let's go find fire staff. Okay, so this is playing an animation whenever it gets triggered. So if you see, if you're able to spam the ability, you actually will get that animation to play over and over again. So take a look. If I just spam it, he's trying to play that animation every time he gets the activation of that ability. Now it's got its own set of problems because it does reset the animations. It doesn't actually like move to the position. So I may have to turn that animation event into something programmatically that will blend between the hold idle state and the regular idle. But I don't know how good that's going to be if I do it programmatically. Okay, so what we want is something closer to how the longbow attack works, where you hold it down and it will shoot a bolt. And if you hold it down too short, it will fail to shoot the bolt. So we're going to copy these guys and we're just going to start making this new strike. Actually, you know what? Holy Bolt is perfectly fine. No, let's just use the longbow, because longbow is already an attack. Let's go to the definition. We're going to add our new strike types. Ice wand. Held. Okay. Ice wand. And this is just typical nomenclature. I have to actually go back to the old abilities and make sure it's all the same, because I've definitely done it with different names for these things in the past. And I think this is the more easily readable one. So we've got this guy, we'll call this one Ice Wand, held, and all this stuff for the strike type and input types, that's going to copy over fine. This thing has aim assist. I want to go ahead and disable that for now. I think aim assist is on my list of things to fix way down the road, but it's definitely something we have to take a look at. Locks movement, we want to lock aim time, we want no combo, charge max. This means that this thing will require to hold it for at least 1/10 of a second before it lets you shoot. I want to up that a little bit. And then it uses the stencil arrow. I don't really care for that stencil type. Yes, the problem with the stencils that I've got is I did an overhaul on them recently, and really the stencil is controlling two things. It's controlling the targeting type, and it's controlling the visuals. And I need to decouple those things. But we'll do that at a later date. So this is the release, and this is the one where if we have an animation, we want to play it, and it will toggle off, and then it will, this is also doing aim assist stuff, we don't want this. It will toggle off and it'll play an animation. So I want to look at what animation that's going to look like, and then it will spawn a projectile type. And ours is going to be Frostbolt. Coming out of the right muzzle, damage is fine. Let me just rename this to projectile. This is where I define projectiles in every one of these things. And oh, it bounced us back up. Oh, come on. And then the last one, if the Ice Wand doesn't get held down long enough, it will fail, causing you to lose a little bit of time and not shoot a bolt. Okay, so let's go back to the Ice Wand, and I can show you how we'll hook it up. So here's where we define each one of these. This skill action aim is actually still not used, but I'll probably end up using it at some point, so I'm going to go ahead and add a field for it. And this is just the defining, I want to do it to define groups of strikes in weapons, and then be able to pull those out. But for now, I mean, I'm just going to keep defining it as I see it. And then we'll have to add our strikes. We'll call this guy Ice Wand held, and Ice Wand released, and Ice Wand released. All right. So there's a dash attack on these things too. We'll have to figure out how what we're gonna do with that dash attack. But as is, this should work and not rotate our hand as we fire. And it should fire a Frostbolt. There we go. You can see that the particles do take a sec to stop emitting. I kind of want to be able to have a little more control over that. They take a second to start up and a second to stop. But that's just kind of part of tuning in it. We'll have to deal with later. Have to build something that tunes that better. So let's talk about an animation we want for the attack. Let's duplicate this guy, and we'll call this one. What do they call it in the fire staff? Attack 1, release right. That sounds fine. Attack 1, release right. Okay, so this thing we don't want this thing to loop. We want to give it some time. Let's do a pretty short amount. And what we want to do is we want to have this thing just kind of kick back like it's firing the projectile. So we're gonna go ahead and start with our initial position, and we will keyframe his hand here, and let's pump it back, what, 4? And we'll move him back to 8, which is our baseline. So, boom, boom. Do we need to rotate at all? I think that's probably okay. But we should probably exaggerate a little more just because that will look better. Alright, and so we've got this guy. I'll save this one out as a unique animation because we will want to load these things dynamically, not let them all sit in the character. Because all these creature visual components are shared with all monsters and heroes. So this piece will be copied a bunch of times. So any animation I leave in here is just extra data that doesn't need to be in there. Doesn't need to be loaded. Okay, so here's the path, and we'll go ahead and add it to our that's projectile. It's data table here. Okay, let's run it. Boom. All right, let's take a look again. Closer. Yeah, even the sound isn't so bad actually when you're looking at it. Cool. We'll be right back. Just gonna take a quick break here. Get something to drink. Okay. Let's see. So we've got our basic attack in. I think it's probably okay. It can shoot pretty quickly. Now we need to figure out what we want to do with the special attack and the dash attack, because this is obviously, the swing that he's got is not going to work. We want something probably that wouldn't be bad to do a dash attack that is just like a frost nova or something like where he can hit the ground and it frees everybody around him. Let's try something like that. We haven't done I guess we have done that ground pound attacks before with a lot of the hammer stuff, so we can take a look at how that works and just try to change one of those projectiles to apply frost on it and maybe do a particle effect for it. That sounds like fun. Alright, so we're back to the ice wand. Let's go take a look at the dash attack. We'll go ahead and add a new strike type. Ice wand dash. I think it's all one word, is it? Dash attack, strike 1. Yeah. I can't imagine we ever have more than 1 strike in a dash attack, but I suppose it's possible. I just don't know how that would really happen. Okay, so what we want is something that's akin to the ground pound, I think. But we're gonna have to change how the animation works for it, because it's gonna have to be pretty quick. Let's take a look at how the hammers ones work. Let's go for the maul. Okay, so here's the maul dash attack. Let's grab this thing. Ice Wand, dash attack 1, strike 1. Dash attack 1, strike 1, it's right there. Oh. Just a spacing. Okay. So it's got its own animation, which is the one that's going to play the effect of the smash, but we don't want. We do like the hit sweep that it's got going for it, and we don't really like the attack move. I don't really want to use that. I kind of want this thing to be more of a land right where you attacked. Attack press. So this should cause the muzzle to be the origin of the maul attack. I want to actually have the spawn mode note at his feet, so wherever he casts it from, it'll always spawn right around his feet. Let's take a look at. Let's go ahead and add it to our weapon here. Dash attack. Let's go ahead and add it. I'll go ahead and add the special. Why not? Okay, there's another thing I have to do in here is I just noticed that all of these have tags. I need to change these things to ice damage that are set to fire damage right now, or else it's not going to get the right buffs from the upgrades you can pick up. Okay, so that works. This works. I bet you this will just work if I play it. So it's spawning something. Doesn't look like it's spawning the dash attack. I mean, I think that is the ground pound. It's just not playing the, not creating the right projectile. Let's see what happens if I put it back to the muzzle. Yeah, I don't know what it would be doing there. Save. Alright, so let me just double check here. So, dash attack, strike 1. It is a dash attack. I mean, he's clearly swinging something. But it looks like he's definitely playing this animation. We're gonna have to make our own animation. Okay. Yeah, he's playing the ground pound animation, but he is. I wonder. I did make some changes in the projectile script. I wonder if the projectile is moving, because I had that happen with some other stuff. Let me just try one thing. Just want to make sure this thing is doing what it should be doing, because I did make pretty substantial update to the projectile system and breaking stuff out of the giant projectile script I've got. Was just way too many lines. Let's just see what it looks like when I do it with them all. Oh, that's what's happening. This isn't actually the right skill. I was looking for this guy. I want the ground pound. Let me go ahead and grab that. Oh, yeah, that's right, because it's a hit sweep box. That's totally not what we want. We want the mall special. Here is dash special. We want this guy's projectile. That's the better one. And we're gonna make our own off of this thing. And there is some limited functionality in built in that allows you to customize these projectiles as they come out, like changing their damage is a big one, and changing their stagger rating for each. So just because it's this projectile type doesn't mean it doesn't get its own unique parameters, but you got to be careful about how many you add, because at some point you're sending along so much information with each projectile that it becomes just better to create a new projectile type. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what that feels like with this thing coming off the feet. Nope, wrong guy. Grab that wand. I do need to get a when I eventually move over to Godot 4, I need to make sure that I can actually debug it in. Okay, there we go. So it's coming at the muzzle still. Did I set that to be the muzzle? Yeah, I did. Okay. I want to put it on his feet. So that's another thing is I have a little bit of play over where this thing spawns in that it gets sent across before this. That actually gets set before it gets sent across the network. All right, so got my bolts. Okay, cool. Still got the old fire blast going. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn this projectile, make a unique version of this ground pound. I really like the camera stake stuff I built for it, but I think it's not really appropriate for what we're doing. So let's go ahead and we're gonna have to make a new projectile type. So like the strike data table, I have a projectile data table. I have a projectile data table, I've got a strike, and I've got gameplay effects for all the effects I've got. So that keeps my content separate from my scripting. But having played around with the JSON converter stuff and setting stuff up in an Excel sheet, actually was not as easy as kind of just pulling it right from our C# script. So now I have these giant scripts with they're just basically getters for these fields. And until I figured out all the fields I really need, I don't think it was really useful to try and build a converter that will convert things like complicated dictionaries and all sorts of stuff that would have to go into the nested data tables. But your mileage may vary. So we need to make a new projectile type. Let's call this Frost Nova. It's appropriate. And we'll go ahead and grab the one that was really close, I believe, was that ground pound. Ground pound. So I've got a bunch of these generic ground pounds I use. for various sizes. But I want to use the smallest one because, you know, even though this thing is gonna be, you know, a Frost Nova, it's gonna be on a dash, so it's something that we'll have to, players can potentially reuse a lot. Frost Nova. We'll probably make a version of it that's more channeled. Okay, so 100 milliseconds, reflectable, yada yada. So all the stuff here looks good. What we need to do is the big piece we want is all this loads. This is all the parameters for it, like damage and stuff. These will get overridden based off of what we've got in the skill, so don't worry about those. No rotation, we've got our shape set. What we need to do is add it down here as to what we're loading when it is called. Because over the network, we just send this enum, which I believe is compressed into a byte right now. And then it gets kind of unpacked and loaded on the other end. So we'll call this one Frost Nova. Projectile. Okay, so one thing we definitely want to do while we're in here with the Frost Nova's specs, we want to be able to add some of the chill effect we want to it. So right here you can see we've got Frostbolt's chill effect. We'll go ahead and throw that down here. Let's see. Collision layer 2 means it's only going to affect the capsule's feet for the player. So like if his overlapping with his head won't necessarily get him caught in the Frost Nova, which is what we want for anything that targets the ground in our sort of 2.5D environment. So adding this gameplay effect will apply that gameplay effect to everybody who gets hit by this thing. So overall on our strike, all I have to do here is add Frost Nova, the name. And so there's also, I can spawn it earlier or later. I want to spawn this thing in about as quick as I can get. I want to give it a little bit of a delay, but let's do 0 and see what that looks like. I bet that's going to be pretty impressive. Okay, so we do need to make sure we have our unique scene file. And if you look, we can go ahead and take a look at our ground pound, what it's called. What was it called for the other one? Yeah, ground pound. So ground pound, I don't know why Godot's search is not great tonight. Here we go. We're gonna duplicate this guy. I'm gonna call this one Frost Nova, and I want to keep the dimensions because I eventually want to probably change this up and give us different dimensions. It'd be cool if we had one we could channel that could make it larger or smaller based on how long you've got it channeled. And I can already scale up projectiles, but all right. So this thing's got a couple of things on it that we've added for the shake event and things like that. So what we want to do is this shake event is pretty gnarly. I don't know if we need the shake event at all, actually. Maybe we'll just do a tiny one. So we want to use the same duration. Let's do a smaller duration because this thing's going to have a smaller duration. Actually, we can keep the duration. We just want to turn it down quite a bit. Let's have everything and see what it looks like. And then this sound effect, I just want to clear the array for now. I do want to eventually have a sound effect coming off this thing, but I don't want to dig into sound while I'm playing music and all that in the background. Just get muddy. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the dimensions because this is the new name. We'll call it 64 by 48, I believe is what our dimensions for that ellipse is. Yep. Okay. So that's all good. And now what I want to do, this thing will spawn with this sprite. But let's go ahead and add another particle system to this, just a real quick one. Just like we did with the ice wand. We'll just copy particle system off of it. It's going to play on start. Let's go ahead and flip flip its materials. So right now it emits pretty fast. This thing's only going to last for what? 1/10 of a second, I think is what the lifetime this thing is. So lifetime. So we probably want to go ahead and pump this thing up. The trouble is, it's gonna that particle effect is going to disappear the moment this thing dies. Which is why that when we use these, the shake source or the I think the shake source doesn't spawn anything, but this guy certainly does. This will spawn an effect and leave it at the location. Because without these particle effects would just disappear. Let me see. I don't know if So the trouble is the longer I let it live, the higher chance that somebody can walk into it post. This is another thing I need to add for projectiles, is I need to have a max time they can affect and a min time to affect. I think I did the one. I actually did that for the lightning bolt. So let me go ahead and see if I did that for the lightning bolt. So Holy Bolt Blast. Collision Trim Check. X. That's what it means. What that means is that it won't check for collision until 200 milliseconds has passed. And I want to make another version of this to trim the other end off. I want this thing to lift for half a second, and we'll trim, we'll say after 100 milliseconds, this thing no longer checks collision. That way we can keep this thing alive in the world without constantly hitting enemies. And let me go ahead and actually, I have to add that to my new fancy projectile system. So just to show off a little bit what we had, so the biggest piece that has been removed is that I had in the process frame, I had all these functions that were determining what happens with your projectile type, how it moves through space. And I've collapsed them all into a single function, which is just get position at time. And that means even if you're networked across, whenever this thing knows the time since it's been fired, which is just this game clock time, which is in theory synchronized across the players, the projectile will be at the correct location on both the client and the server. And I can always, because my projectiles right now are all determined just based on their initial velocity and time, there's no like position data that need updated all the time, so this gets sent once across the network, and you can have a bunch more projectiles going at once because it's all determined. And even things that look complicated, like the rotating crosses around the characters, are all based off of this determinism. So let's go take a look. And see what it looks like here is I got this float, which is just time since the thing has been fired, and I'm calculating its linear position. For the majority of things are just position. And these ones are just get the node. Sine does more math. It gives me the sine position plus the offset. Boomerang takes that data and compares it to that boomerang curve that I built. And then throw to position and detonate are basically just arcs. It's a way to build an arc with a max height and gives you the position there. And then this is the circling detachment, which rotates based around pi off of your character. And the time since start. So that's essentially what it all comes down to, is just getting them all into one location. But what we need to do is we need to look at the other half of this, which is what the physics of these projectiles does, because that's where my physics thread is fairly light. All it does is basically run this process, which is just checking. It's not doing any movements of stuff. It's not doing anything crazy, except just checking projectile collision. So I need to just go ahead and take a look at this guy. And I've got this, see? I need to make sure. So that's my trim check that I had. And I need to do a trim check on the other end. So if the time since fired is greater, or is so time since fired is I believe that's milliseconds. Let me peek what this thing does. So yeah, just returning our timestamp. So if the time since fired happens to be greater than the data collision check trim Y, then also return. So yeah, so if it goes higher than the trim, return. That way I don't have to do any backward math based on the thing's lifetime. That means the trim of this thing should work now. And let's go take a look. Okay, so if it's... Yeah, so that'll be fine. So we're just going to do something here real quick. I'm going to do between 100 milliseconds and 200 milliseconds, this thing will be active for damage. Yeah. And we've got an apply chilled on it, and let's go ahead and take a look at our particle 2D. Now I feel pretty confident we can actually make this thing emit. So this thing's only going to emit once every time I click that box. That's a pain in the butt. Let's turn off one shot until we actually get this set up the way we want. Okay, we don't want trail. We just want to flip the radial acceleration. And there's a curve. And I want this thing to be 200. And then we'll get it going down to 0, I think. Oh no, because the negative, we still want it to go back to negative so that it fades at the end. And this thing is off center and it is triggering my OCD. Let's stop it. Okay, emission shape. We've got this ring, and the ring is fine. I don't know if we can make it any different than what it is. There's a height thing. What does height do? Oh, that must be just height of the particles coming out. That can't be layers, though. Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one. Let's go ahead and throw more particles at this, since it's going to be a one-shot. And let's go ahead and add more velocity to the front of this, and we'll slow it down at the end. Negative 400. Let's go ahead and move this thing up. All right, so... And what we want to do is we want to change that scale curve as well, because I think that scale curve could go up. And let's take that color curve. I think we've got a gradient on this thing for... Oh no, okay. Let's see what it looks like at the smallest gradient here. Let's give ourselves some decent alpha. And we'll alpha it down. Then we'll cut this one off. Maybe add another gradient in here, because this seems to be too much. Okay. Man, I really don't like that Godot, what it does with the opening and closing and things, but I don't think I'm going to get any fixes to that because they're updating to the new version. I'm probably not going to see any benefit for any of that stuff for Godot 4 for this project. Okay, let's just try what the one-shot looks like. Really clippy. Okay, that's fine. Let's take the radius in for everything. Okay, that looks fine. We'll go with that. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So we roll. Oh, we got an error. What did we hit? We hit something. Oh, it's because I've put a null array in here. Well, that's a good catch, though, because I want to make sure I can actually disable these without them failing. Where is my sound effect spawner? There we go. So what I want to do is make sure that, so basically that if it's null or it doesn't exist, return. So we're just going to do this. Yeah, just catch the last. Interesting that the length didn't catch it, but I guess, yeah, that makes sense because it is a null array. Well, it's applying the cross, but it looks like it's using the wrong projectile still for what it's loading. Let's just make sure I didn't screw that up. Projectile data table, it should be spawning Frost Nova. And is my ability spawning Frost Nova? That is spawning Frost Nova. And Frost Nova down here is loading the Frost Nova projectile. And here, it's applying chilled, so it is loading this. But that does not look like the right particle system, but maybe I'm just seeing things. Let's go ahead and turn this guy off and see what it looks like. What I really would like to have is the particle emitter try to match that ellipse shape. It's clearly that the particle system looks completely wrong, though. I wonder why. Actually, I need to look back at that holy bolt. That was weird. Is it something I have to make unique? That's probably what it is. Because this thing's particle system is probably sharing. Make unique. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and look back at the look back at what I did for Frost Nova. I bet this thing is not unique. I'll have to save these things out eventually. Yeah, everything else is looking right except for that particle system. Let me turn off the explosiveness and see what it looks like. Because maybe it's just the overlap of how the particle system looks with the world. No, it still looks like it's not scaling the right amount. Oh, we're having issues with this guy too. This thing's no longer able to hit guys. It's not hitting walls either. That's news. Alright, let's take a look at my projectiles. What did I change? Yeah, it's because of this thing. It's because I bet this is coming in at a value that's not high enough. Oh, and we also want to make sure that it collides with okay. We want to make sure it collides with walls too most of the time. Let's just double check to do this. We'll say if this thing we're gonna do some things we probably shouldn't do, which is no. We're gonna make sure that these things are not zero because I think it's loading in a vector, zero vector every time. So that's probably why it's trying to trigger this early. And we need to figure out a different way to do that because we don't want, just in general, you don't want to use floats to track and compare data if you can avoid it compared to like using ints or whole numbers, just because how floats work across different computers. I still don't know why that particle system looks so funky. Make unique. Let me save it as something unique too. Materials. Just call it Frost Nova. I think there's a better place to save this, actually. I think I've got another place. Assets. Materials. There we go. Save. Yeah, that particle system, for some reason, everything else looks like it's working, but that particle system does not look right. Okay. But other than that, I like it. I'll have to figure out exactly what's going on there. Probably hold off on that for a little bit. I mean, it's got to be loading this particle. There's really no other particle that does load, so... Ground. Projectile. This thing doesn't spawn. That doesn't spawn a particle. That doesn't spawn a particle. Oh, this thing does spawn particles. Ground pound effect. I bet I'm spawning that effect somewhere. And the one I'm trying to spawn is not spawning. I want to... Okay. So I think I know what's happening. It's spawning that ground pound effect. And because I have one shot and emitting set to on, will automatically disable it once one shot is done. It will fail. So let me try to, I'm gonna just do it the quick way I'm gonna do it is not do one shot. Add explosiveness so it all comes in one big wave. We'll do half a second lifetime because that's what we want it to do. And that way it should die off before it plays again. And the other half of this is that that ground pound effect is being played from probably the projectile itself. Because I did add on these ground pound projectiles a visual effect resource path. And that's what's playing. So, like before, I have actually already built the thing. I just forgot I built it, so I'll clear this thing. I'll turn this guy off. And we'll, let me take what I have here and make it as a new scene. Save the branch as a scene. We'll put it right in the effects folder that I have down here. So where was that? Scenes, effects. And we'll just create a new folder. Frost Nova. Frost Nova effect. Okay. So now I can dump this out of here. And in here I can go ahead and go, all right, grab my Frost Nova effect. I'll just copy the path. Okay, that way it should load this guy up. And let's Frost Nova effect. And its emitting is on. I want to up its lifetime. I wonder how the other one works, actually. Let me see, ground. Because that ground pound effect, I don't even think is a... it's a CPU particles. And how does it know to play? Oh, it is. It's a hit effect. Does it just play when it starts? Hit effect. Okay, so it just destroys self. That's all it does. That's fine. That's really... That's fine. We do need that, though. We do need to make sure that our thing is a hit effect. So I need to add a child node. We'll make it a node 2D. And we'll go ahead and make this the parent. call this okay. And now I can say it's play speed. Where is its lifetime set to with the hit effect? Lifetime. Destroy self. It's got a kill timer. How does it set the kill timer? Waits the play minimum speed. So it'll die after, we'll do it 0.4 just so we have enough time to kill it early. Actually, we'll do 0.5. And then that should spawn what we want, as opposed to the old ground pound. That's playing a lot slower than I expected. Let me just make sure I know what I'm doing here. There we go. We want to place it on the ground too. We want to move it back so that it is on the floor. That's the index -1. And let's go and it's not explosive enough. I think it needs to get even more aggressive. Take a look at the material, see if I can get it to go faster at startup. Radial acceleration. Let's see how that looks. It looks like it's repeating just by about a frame. Yep, and looks like that code. Actually, I had to turn that. Gotta go to that Frost Nova again. Give it a little bit more lifetime because it will take a frame to end, and I don't want it repeating. I don't know why the thing won't just let me delete it after the one shot. I wonder if it'll just play now, actually. Let me see if it'll actually just work and not repeat. Like, do I have to hit play every time it loads up? Yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to hit emit. That is a pain. Okay. There's nothing in here for me to just say. Let's see the other one, the ground pound one, because that one is clearly emitting. So this guy's got emit on start. Where's my emit on start? I wonder what is going on there that lets it emit immediately. Did I put a script on this thing? Yeah, there's a script on this thing. Yeah, all it does is it emits on start. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just do that for the other one too. Let's see, that's the GPU particle. Let's need, okay, and I gotta figure out, we've got all these particles, scripts, visual effects, scripts. Visual effects, and it did add it. Okay, so it exists. I'm gonna go ahead and just add it to my other one. So I don't have to keep doing this crap. Quick load. Okay, and this should just work now. Nope. Oh, probably because it doesn't inherit from the right type. Let me take a look again. Particles 2D. Where's the error coming from? Cannot instance script from the base class. Particles 2D. Well, it's definitely a particles 2D. Cannot instance script. Oh, has this not been added to the folder? Oh, it's probably because Godot doesn't know where that file is. Okay, let me take a look. Particle. Yeah, it's right there. I don't know why it can't instantly close down. Close down and reopen Godot. Didn't like that. It doesn't know how to find it. Why doesn't it know where to find it? Particle system, GPU, one shot. Frost. Clear. Don't know, that is weird to me. Oh, we're gonna add it to project. Am I gonna reload the solution? I don't know why I can't find it. It is so bizarre. Cannot instant script because the class could not be found. Particles. Oh, the name is wrong. There we go. Okay, so let's get the let's get set up on the next ability here. Once this thing is boom, we got Frost Nova. It's really kind of tiny. It's actually kind of hard to use right now because it's at his feet, and he's already rolled, which means he's pretty far away from these guys. But we'll worry about that later. Can always tune it. It looks like I've not fixed this. Yeah, I gotta fix this thing where it's going through walls. Okay, so let's go back to projectile because the projectile had this collision event that I was blocking. So I want to make sure this thing does not equal 0. That's what I want, because I want the 0 to the vector to 0 to just be as if I hadn't done anything with it. Okay, that looks like it's fixed itself now. Okay. Looks like this thing is spawning on top of the projectile and causing it to be above where it should be. So this guy should be at -1 and that guy should be at -1, but I'm guessing because the projectile's higher than -1, let me set its z-index to 0 because I bet it's parenting to it. And I think the next thing we're going to build, since we've already got Ray of Frost built with that scroll, we're going to want to build a that blizzard effect. So yeah, that is actually going behind the character now, behind the wall. Cool. Okay, so let's think about what we want to do with this blizzard effect. I'm going to go ahead and open up the other Visual Studio because I don't want to work in. I want to work in 2019, I believe. Okay. So we've got Frost Nova and we've got the other ones built, and we now need to get the Ice Wand. I don't know what this Go crap is. Well, that is all about. Back to our Ice Wand. I don't know where it ended up going. Somewhere around here. Okay, so now we want to do Blizzard. Let's make a new skill action type. Oh, we already have that. That's the whole point of me adding it earlier. Okay, we need a new strike names for this thing. We're gonna call it. We're gonna call it special one for each one. We want the same kind of setup as we did for the other ranged attack, because I don't believe we want any melee attacks for this. Okay, so we've got we want ice damage for all this. This shouldn't be range damage though. This should be melee. I think. I don't even know. Okay, so this is the one that this will contain all of our special attack stuff. So this will be on release. These are the parameters that gets fed to it. Let's go take a look now over here. All right, so what we want to do is we want to be able to hold down the button and aim, similar to how we do it with the alchemy bombs and jumping and things like that. But I'm trying to see if we want to actually do we want it to activate on release or activate on some sort of channel where you have to hold the button down for a period of time. The trouble is if we do it on press and hold, then you won't be able to aim it properly. In which case it makes more sense to do something like a cone shape. But I really want to see if we can't get close to that blizzard channeling. I don't know what the best way to do that would be. That'd be to well, let's get the aiming part out of the way and figure out how we want to channel this later. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to go to, let's go find something like our alchemy bomb, which is going to do aiming at ground in the same way that we had in the same way we have for that ability, so that it doesn't go over walls. So we'll grab this alchemy bomb stuff, copy it over. And remember, this is a utility, so we do have to change some of the parameters in here. So ice wand held. It's a special, not a strike or another utility. Now, what I want to do eventually is take all of these parameters that are at the top, and they're used in various areas for different checks, and I think AI uses half of them for monsters. But I want to kind of condense them because they don't mean much when you're putting the data in, and there's got to be an easier way because they're basically telling you the same information. This special held and held is the same as special, so maybe I just need the input type. And okay, I did change how I do aiming as well. So you have an aim origin as opposed to the old tag for aims. It aims from your feet. Now you can aim from different parts of the model that you want to aim from. Like, say you can aim from an arm now as opposed to aiming from either the center of the model or the feet of the character. And all that should update properly and do the right distance checks. So, okay, so there we go. If I was just to use that, ice wand, release fail, we want copy special, and we want to give it its own animation space. Okay, so this thing has already got activation costs for Armadi and other resources that you use, and I don't want to use those. Okay. And so right now it's going to act very similar to how the fireball on the alchemy bomb works. Even it's going to spawn the alchemy bomb. But I really do want to figure out a way to get this to work where I can move it and have it continue activating. You know, that's something I have to actually do because the projectile itself does not update after it's been fired. So I think for now we just have to have it place this location similar to how the Necromancer uses his ability, where he'll place down a zone that is a denial area. So that is essentially how we're going to have to do that. It's going to have to work that way. And so we can actually look at the Necromancer because he does not have a spawn node like the other abilities. He spawns it at location. So this is from its target position is the way that it spawns in. And so it will actually feed in the target position from the local player to spawn in the event, or spawn in the area. So I'm just going to grab the whole thing and use that as our baseline. And so there's some animations in here. We probably will look back at making animations in a sec, but I just want to make sure this thing is going to spawn what I expect it to spawn, which is that damaging zone. Yep, so it's doing exactly what I expected. Just spawns a damaging zone. Now this guy should take damage when he goes in it. Don't know if it's actually affecting him. Oh, there it is. Okay, great. So it's doing what we expect. We're gonna have to turn this frosty into into its frost-based abilities. And we'll probably want to do something with these zones that spawn so you can't have more than one at a time. And you can see my aiming is also off here where it's aiming at the wrong location. We're going to have to fix that in the animation as well. And I think the best way to do this is what it's doing now, which is like a big delay. We're going to need to have him inability to spam it, because unlike monsters, players will just spam these. We don't want that to happen. We want to make it a little less spammy. And I wonder if we can do something cool with it, as opposed to just applying chill to everything that goes into it. Maybe some sort of debuff zone that not just chills them, but can cause extra damage when you're inside of it. The trouble is that it's used, and you don't have to take a whole lot of time to spam it right now. So let's just start with this. We'll go. There's a minimum charge time. So we've got charge time max and charge time min, and that's milliseconds. So this needs to go up to. And we need to make our charge percent 1. So if you don't charge this thing up, it won't actually fire off, and you'll waste it all that time. I think that's usually the best way to go about these things, to make sure that it requires a full charge. So that's fine. And that means you'll have to charge it for, let's do 700 milliseconds. Okay, so now you have to charge it for some time. I'm not showing any display for the charge yet, which we'll have to go do. Let me add one of those to it, because charging is really important to be able to see if I'm going to be able to fire or not. Unfortunately, like I was saying before, stencils provide both the visual and the behavior, and I really need to use that. I need to use that for targeting, because I bet you if I were to move it over, I believe my charge, it would charge, but it wouldn't aim at the right location. Let's see. So I can't tell where I'm aiming, is really what it comes down to. So what I need to be able to do is have a charge effect that is on the stencil itself. I'm gonna get another drink. I will be right back. All right. So what I think I want to do is I really do want to build that stencil that charges. I really do want to have that aim position stencil have a version that charges for us. But that's going to require a little bit of digging into how the stencils are set up. Let me just look, actually, maybe I can just do it quickly. Let me see, it's called aim ground position is the name of the stencil. And that's not even used, but I got this sprite. Let's try something. Let's see. Okay, so this thing has a script on it called aim position. Figure out what the hell it does. All right, so it's got an update position, update active strike position. Simulate. This isn't used at all. I don't know what this is supposed to do, but what I can also do in here is I can actually get the charge level of the active strike event and update this charge level. Update charge value. We'll just do that. Well, so we're gonna get the so funny, all the stuff that's been passed through here. Let me see something, because I bet when I set the data, I set the active strike event. Yeah, so I don't even need to grab all that crap. I have the active strike event. I just want to do this. And I want to grab the active strike event. And I bet I can get the charge off of it. Charge. Strike charge percent. That is perfect. Okay, so now that we have the charge off of here, I can do a real quick create a new sprite that sits on top and kind of aims in and hones in on the charge location, or the target location. That'll be our kind of our pseudo charge. Let's call this charge percent. And we have, let's call this thing the charge stencil, or charge sprite. Charge sprite. And we'll find this guy, and charge sprite equals get node or null. And I'm just gonna grab this thing off the top layer, which I think is called let's just make sure. So if the charge sprite is instance valid. So if this is not there, we don't care about updating the charge. And then let's set the we're going to set the size of this thing. So I'm going to duplicate this thing real quickly. I'm going to call this thing the charge sprite. And the charge sprite is going to do a little... I don't want to do an animation. I want to do just a straight up scale. And we'll start this thing scale at 5 times larger on both ends. That is ugly. But we can probably turn the material down too. We'll make it a chargy color. I really don't like it being like. Let's do it 2 times larger. Okay, and that means we can take the charge sprite and modulate those two. So what we want to do is we want the charge sprite size dot scale equals new vector 2. We're just going to grab the charge percent. I believe goes from 0 to... So we're going to do 1 plus our charge percent. So let's go up to 100. So we'll just do charge percent. Actually, it's going to start at 2 and go down to 1. So start at 2. And we're going to minus charge percent. And then we want to do get material. And we want to grab the modulate. There was a quick way to grab the modulate, I thought. Look it up real quick. Okay, so set modulate. Set modulate. And that sends a new color in. Let's see. Do as a straight up. We want it to be yellow, so we need to dump the blue. And then we want the alpha to be the charge percent. Okay, use modulate property instead. Okay. Okay, so now I have the charge, this thing's charge value and updating each frame. Oh, I gotta set it back to it in the table over here because we want the stencil aim ground position. It'd be great if we could make like unique ones for each skill. Okay, so I can see it, but you probably can't. It is so faint. Let me go ahead and adjust the values here. So we'll start with this guy. We'll start with 1 plus charge percent. That's going to go over 1 pretty quickly, and we'll do scale up. This way we'll just be able to see it easier. Okay, so now when you're holding this thing down, you'll see it get up, and it's now at max charge there. And you can see it kind of ghosting in. It's weird, the modulate of this charge sprite. Oh, because this is self-modulate. Let's go ahead and adjust this back. Cancel. Revert this guy. We'll do 3. So that's what it's going to look like until we get it tracked in. Okay, so now you can see this thing is gonna, that's my regular attack, that is my charge. It's not zooming all the way in, which I need to do. I need to fix that. It's because the scale is capping out. Let's see. The scale is 3 minus charge percent. We need to end it at 2, so we'll multiply charge percent by 2. We're probably going to need some sort of pop at the end of these charges, because you'll need to know exactly when you're at max. But you can see. So now if I were to try to end it early, it's not letting me. I wonder if I should just change it, because this thing is actually a larger area. Maybe I should make it cover the correct area and have it stencil charged to the size of the blizzard at the end. Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and I think we've done a good amount on the weapons, and I did want to get to creating a new monster tonight too. Let's go ahead and start on a new enemy, and I want to show off what I got here with the character that I've built. This is my wraith, and it's going to be a kind of a mid-danger boss. I'm going to have him be able to travel through walls and things like that chase you down. It's going to be very hard to get rid of. Also want to use some tech involving either rotating projectiles around this enemy or delayed fire projectiles. I'm thinking maybe like you see in a lot of games where the boss will spawn an array of projectiles around them, and then they'll delay and then fire off at different rates at you to kind of mix things up in the fight. So I've already built the sprite for him, and I just got to get him into game is kind of what I want to start with. As soon as we can. So let's see. It's been a little while since I put a new character in. Let me see where that is loaded. So I want to look at monster names, and that should be in the game data loader. Actually, where do we spawn monsters from? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go into the monster spawn. Let's go into spawn manager. The spawn point manager. And I believe there is a function in here to get a random monster. And I need to go look at all the monster names. So I've added Wraith to the list. I haven't added him to the stagger resistance. He needs to have his own set. I want to give him enough to where he doesn't stagger too much. I think we've run out of our music. I'm going to go ahead and set something else up here. There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna set him up with all the data he needs for him. Let's see, Wraith. Now the big thing about the Wraith that's gonna be interesting to try and noodle out is not only what weapon does he need, he definitely needs his own set of weapons. We'll start him with like the spear, because that's a pretty basic weapon. I'll come up with that just to get him to spawn and use some abilities. Then we'll start digging into differentiating him out from the rest of the characters. And I want to see, because the dev test level loads. I think it runs this function, but I don't think it runs this function anymore. I think it runs a different one. Let me look at the standard mission. Actually, there's a thing that all standard missions now have that allows the threat level to be used. Let's see, what's it called? It's called the Dungeon Master. Okay, so get room monster. Huh. So it's probably grabbing one of these two. Let me just do this real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can't spawn a wraith. So I've added the wraith to the list of basic monsters. So I'm curious as to whether I'm using the old system for the test level or the new system. The only thing I wonder is if it's probably gonna... I'm definitely using the old system. No, that is definitely a bat with a spear, so I believe it's loaded the wraith. It's just not loading the right visual asset for it. Let me just look here under Mission Manager, Creatures. It's running a skeleton controller. I really got to change that because it's not telling you what kind of monster it is that it's loaded. It's running the different behavior manager though. So using the axe and sword. But it clearly doesn't have that. I mean, it's got... Let's take a look at its arm socket on the right. Has loaded the spearman spear. Okay, so it did load him, but it's definitely using this system, but it doesn't know which one it's supposed to load because it's definitely loading the wraith. All right, let's go see where I can assign the sprite for that guy. I think that's in the creature visual. I mean, it ultimately should be in the game data loader. Game data loader. This get sprite resource by path here is what I'm trying to grab. So we got a wraith. Yes, the wraith is loading the bat, which is why we're seeing the bat. So we want to load the wraith. Sprite sheet. And then I bet you the wraith is also loading in the skeleton's controller as a default. So it should load the wraith up here. There he is, and he is blurry because I've not set up his sprite properly. But let me go ahead and change that sprite, and we'll take a look at him. Okay, so he's been loaded in with all the sprite frames he'll need. Let me just make sure I can actually damage him fine. But we're gonna give him a different weapon. We're gonna give him some swords, some special. He's gonna have a number of special attacks. Yeah, you can tell that he's trying to load different attacks. That's why his sword is flipping around the way it is. He's trying to load different attacks with the wrong weapon for his controller. And now I need to load the correct controller for him. Okay, so in here, he doesn't have his own controller built. He's loading skeleton, like I was saying earlier. We need to get the wraith hooked up with his own controller. So I think what we want to start with is what is the best controller to use to start with. I definitely want him to have more attacks than a standard monster. So I'm thinking he's going to need to have somewhere between 3 and 5 attacks. So I think the best guy to start with, I guess, is the Demogorgon, which has 6 attacks on it. And also he can change... Yeah, let me start with that guy. Let's start with the Demogorgon. Let's go find the controller for you. So these are the biggest pieces that load on a monster when it streams, and especially unique controllers load for each one. And we duplicate this one. And what these things do is just control it's basically the AI behavior tree for the monster that's loaded. It's not really a behavior tree, it's closer to a state machine, but it has priority stacks of behaviors that'll run through, and then in each behavior it has different movement behaviors that can occur when it's attempting to do that attack type. And again, each one of these is in a stack. They've got cooldowns, they've got and then they got costs, distance checks, all the standard stuff you'd have to control the creature. Let's go ahead and dump. I like the press and repeat stuff you get from the strikes in the Demogorgon's initial attack. So we're probably going to have him have a sword. Let's go hook him up with a weapon, and we'll start making some attacks for him. We need to give him a sweet sword. Let's see what we got over here. Let's find our weapons. Do we have anything cool to grab? That is kind of like the rusty sword, but I also want something that looks mean, like something serrated. I mean, this is a semi-serrated sword, but I kind of want to keep pieces of this. Let's just copy this guy and use chunks of him. And we want to make it darker and eviler, so we're gonna get rid of the fancy like light blue colors off of it. Okay, so first thing I want to do, let's cut that in. Cool. Now it's more evil. We'll cut these. I don't think we want more than 3, actually. Let's just keep it at 3. And then we'll turn it darker. Actually, let me just grab the colors off of him and use those as my baseline. Although that'll kind of look dull if I do that. Let me just grab the axe colors that I've got. And we want something dark for the hilt. And then for the grip, kind of like that look. And let's tweak that to be more red. Let me see. I think, yeah, let's tweak that to be more red. Image adjustments. Let's go. I think that's not brown enough. I'm just going to take the edge color and just hit each one of these. Because we want to be the same outline color and everything. I wonder if that's going to be too big for the hilt, though. That's actually pretty long. Let's go ahead and chunk it down a little bit further. See if we can make it a little smaller without it looking weird. Because I'm looking at these axe size, that's going to be a big sword. Let's see if we can shorten it, because the axe, it's like almost great sword size. I want to make sure it doesn't look like a great sword. Let's do this. Let's cut out a couple of these, and that might actually just work. That might be the right size. I still think there's too much hilt to sword there, though. See if I can't just cut that down even further. All right, that's good enough. Let's see if that'll look decent with him. Now let me just do this. I don't like that bottom part anymore. I should probably just look up. I'll just cut out a lot of frills on it. Do this. And then let's take, does my cleaver actually do that? It does. And I really like the look of the rust on this thing. Maybe I could steal some of that rust. All right, let's go back to him. And let's build a weapon. weapon. Wraith sword. And we got pixel snap on. We'll go ahead and grab this. I hope I'm out of range of that thing. Yeah, it looks like I'm really cutting it close. Okay, that's the Wraith sword, and we'll go ahead and throw that on the sprite. Okay, it's about the same size, a little bit bigger. That's fine. Okay, and so we've got the right size. We want to just, this collision shape that we have here is mostly for testing. So I believe we want it to be a 10. And we'll need to modify its muzzle then. This is basically what we use on the physics side to, well, it's just a representation of what we use on the physics side to hit sweep whenever you're making attacks. Okay, this is fine. It'll sweep. And I think that works. Now we need to build the actual weapon for the Wraith, and that's going to be its own weapon set. So let's take a look at something that's a little more complex, like the Demogorgon, because we've got going to have a lot of weapon attacks on this thing. So this is called Demogorgon weapons. You can see how big this guy's file can be for all of his strike attacks that he's got. Call this Wraith weapons. And the reason we call it weapons and not just the sword is because we probably will end up giving him, similar to how the Demogorgon has like a free hand and a bunch of stuff on his cleaver hand. It's just easier to house all of the weapons in one set than it is to try and split them up and attach them at different times. So let's call this, let's go make a new one called Wraith weapons. And we'll rename it in here. And I believe we had it on the game data loader, which weapons this guy will load. So there's a controller that tells me what controller he's going to load, but where do I tell it where the weapon to load? I think that's somewhere in the monster itself. So when the monster loads, it loads the data for the monster data table. And then it loads a controller. And I bet in here, I bet it's going to actually go into the skill component and load it in there. So skill component, it activates and gets the weapon set name for the data. So that is interesting. So I bet you in the monster data, yep, it tells me the weapon set name, and I want it to be the Wraith weapons. Let me get this Wraith weapons set up. And then in the data table for where's my game data table? Game data loader. Okay, so in here we've got the Wraith somewhere in here. So there's the Wraith, and now I want to find, because the monster loads with that data, his skills will load in a different table. And that one's actually right here. get weapon data from names. So when it goes to the skill component, it figures out what weapon name it is, the weapon set name, and then it actually creates an instance of that weapon set. So what I need to do is do the wraith weapons, and it'll create an instance of wraith weapons. Okay. Now that I've got that on there, I'm gonna make sure the wraith weapon actually loads the correct sword. So we've got one model. I don't think we're gonna load a second. I'll leave it here because if we ever want to give the wraith 2 swords, we'll give him 2 swords and let him dual wield. Let me go find the path for this thing. Actually, I named this thing wrong. Wraith sword model. So I can remember these things are actually models. So all these are named model. Okay, so putting that here. Now when I load in, if I set this all up correctly, it's going to load this in. It's going to try and load these Demogorgon attacks off of them, which are probably going to do some weird stuff with his strikes. But actually, he's using the same AI as the Demogorgon, so it may not be as bad as it looks. So yeah, he's using the same strikes as the Demogorgon, like he's going to do the jumps and the swings. He doesn't have a good jump animation set for him, but that's essentially loading up all that data that the Demogorgon uses with a different character model and a different weapon. And if I damage him enough, he'll actually switch to his second phase and use his second abilities. Yeah, there's his swing. Let's see if he does the... Yeah, he'll do the tentacle attack. I want to get this ability here. It's not letting me. Okay. Hit him with Bolt and zap him. Okay, so that is... He's pretty well hooked up now. I got to get all of them tuned and figure out the attacks I'm going to put on him, but I guess we'll be working on that throughout the week. And I'm going to call it for now. If anybody has any questions on how we're setting stuff up, or anybody have any feedback, there is the link to the game's current build set on itch in the description. I'd appreciate any feedback you could provide, any playtesting. That'd be great, especially on the vertical slice game version that's in there. Even the survival one has got enough stuff that I think people can give me some decent feedback on different monsters, what they like, and which ones are kind of boring, and any ideas for cool attacks, cool bosses. I do have to put up building a more complicated boss fight as opposed to these mini bosses that I built right now. And I'll see you guys next time. Probably have another one of these streams throughout the week because I've got a little bit of time now, and we'll get back into the swing of things. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Bye.